What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of Loaded Box Vids. Today, we have a weird one for you. We're not doing the regular Dynasty football stuff. We're actually doing an NFL mock draft because obviously you can't have Dynasty football without the NFL mock draft. But before we get on into that, Dylan, I'll introduce you first. How you doing, buddy?
I'm happy to be here and excited to talk football. I think the people will be remorsed if I didn't say that, so I have to get it out there.
And then we actually have a mystery voice on today. He didn't want to show his face. He wanted to remain mysterious, but it's our good buddy, Eric Villar. We've been playing fantasy football with him, I think, since 2013, 2014. So, Eric, welcome in. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I'm just here for the paycheck.
Well, you're going to be disappointed. There's not many zeros on that one.
I feel like I've been lied to.
If he pays you, he hasn't paid me yet, so I'll talk to him after the show if you get a paycheck.
I don't negotiate.
Absolutely. But yeah, so we figured, you know what, Eric, we'd bring you in because you were just texting me the other day that you've been doing like nonstop NFL mock drafts. Dylan and I have been wanting to do a mock draft. So we figured, hey, man, let's get you in here.
Yeah, wait, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's very fun. Eric is also he also suffers the same as I do, being an Eagles fan. So
terrible pain.
So that's probably why he's doing lots of mock drafts, because the Eagles could draft a kicker, a quarterback. They could draft me by accident. We don't know how he's gonna do. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's gotta. I gotta say, I'm very thankful I'm not an Eagles fan because I don't know if I could keep up with that heartbreak right now.
You don't want to.
But all right, so we will hop on into it. So how this mock draft is going to work is, Dylan, you'll do the first pick, the fourth pick, the seventh pick, so on. I'll do the second, fifth, eighth, so on and so forth. And then Eric is going to draft after each of us at that third spot. So Dylan, you have a very easy task with pick number 1 in the NFL draft. The Jacksonville Jaguars select
the kicker. No, I took Trevor Lawrence. He's the best prospect in the draft. Best quarterback prospect. Whether he'll be the best, I mean, history will, tell that tale, but definitely the only pick that makes sense here for the Jaguars. Looking to start over, a new face to the franchise. That's why I took him.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a pick where anyone really needs to explain at this point.
No.
I think the Vegas odds for Trevor Lawrence to go number 1 overall have to be like minus 10,000 or something ridiculous right now. There's no way it doesn't happen without Jacksonville completely burning to the ground the next day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll move on from that one. So I have the Jets at pick 2, and this is another obvious one. So I went with Zach Wilson here. Zach Wilson, in my opinion, I prefer Justin Fields. I really do. But a lot of reports say that the Jets are pretty much already sold on Zach Wilson. There were so many reports after Wilson's pro day that it was like, yep, he's going number 2. The draft can start at pick number 3. So take that for what it's worth. Personally, I lean Fields, but I think the Jets are going to be leaning Zach Wilson. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him, but from a dynasty perspective, I'm nervous for any quarterback that goes and plays for the Jets. We'll see how it goes, but we'll move on. And Eric, we'll let you pick for the San Francisco 49ers at pick 3.
Yeah, so obviously I'm going to take a power running back here. You trade up in the draft, you take running backs.
That's how you win, baby.
That's how you win. I mean, look at Dallas. They've done so well with Zeke. But so the 49ers here, they're going to take Justin Fields. They're not going to overthink it. They're not going to let this narrative of Mac Jones being a better player take over them. They're taking Justin Fields. This kid is a stud. I don't care what anybody says. If you pass on Justin Fields, you're passing on Deshaun Watson. But that's a different topic for another day.
Yeah, bit of a controversial name.
Deshaun Watson and not
football. Football Deshaun Watson. not off-season Deshaun.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I like
a similar vein.
I like the pick, and I don't understand what's going on with all the rumors between hyping up Mac Jones and then tearing down Justin Fields. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. And I sincerely hope for the 49ers sake that they listen to you and they go with Fields here.
I very well think I'll segue into myself for the 4th pick, but I genuinely think our first 4 picks have a very good chance of being accurate, because I feel like in Eric's case, he picked for the 49ers. If they do that, if you're the Falcons, I'm back on the clock, you have all that money allotted into Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, and Julio Jones, and they're probably going to draft a running back, obviously, later in the draft. So I feel like you have to kind of run it back. Either if you want to, you're kind of forced to. So I think drafting a quarterback at 4 would be insufficient for them, and that's why I think drafting the best offensive lineman in Penei Sewell would make sense. I could see them taking a quarterback here in real life, but I don't want to say sloppy seconds because it's insulting to Trey Lance or Mac Jones, but they really are possibly going to watch 3 quarterbacks go in ahead of them. And there's a very good chance they may suck ass even more next year. So if they suck again, you can always trade up and get the kid next year as opposed to be lights out. So I think it's a safe pick. You can also build around him.
Yeah, I like that pick. You know, I definitely like that you didn't go quarterback. I know a lot of mock drafts out there either have Atlanta, you know, trading down or grabbing Kyle Pitts or a quarterback. Sewell is the top offensive lineman in the class. Him and Slater, who we'll bring up later, they're both absolute freak athletes, but I would also say that Sewell is the 1A offensive lineman of this class. You know, offensive linemen like that, you get one of them a year if you're lucky. And this year we have 2. I like it. I don't think Atlanta's going to want to miss
Look
out
at
on
Quentin Nelson for the Colts. That's all I have to say. He's been lights out ever since his first game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You definitely can't discount a good offensive line. Speaking as a Carolina Panthers fan, I know how important it is because we haven't had one in God knows how long. But anyway, moving on. I like the pick. So the Cincinnati Bengals are up, and I know the 2 popular picks here are Penei Sewell, who I obviously can't take, and Jamar Chase, who I'm not going to take. And my reason for that is Cincinnati, they have a lot of needs. The biggest one should be protecting Joe Burrow, but I do think that if they can't get Penei Sewell, they're actually going to go with Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts is a phenomenal athlete. He's arguably what Julio Jones would be if you switched him to the tight end position. Maybe that's too high praise. I don't know. The hype's real with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is kind of like the best of both worlds. Now, any play where he's not running a route is probably a waste of potential out there. You should have Kyle Pitts running as many routes as possible, but he is definitely a half decent blocker. And when you need to call on him to block, when you need a reliable tight end, he can do that. So it's obviously not the same blocking that you'd get with a Penei Sewell or a Rashawn Slater, but Kyle Pitts is kind of that best of both worlds player for me here at number 5 for Cincinnati.
I could see it, and it definitely makes sense. I mean, it gives them a weapon for the future.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where like maybe it's a pipe dream. Maybe we're all hyping Kyle Pitts up too much.
I don't think we're hyping up too much. It's just that he's so talented, but there's several teams in the top 5 to like 10 range that he could potentially go to because some teams might pass him depending upon what the top 4 do. Because I've seen actual accredited, not Mel Kiper, people who know kind of get stuff right. They have him falling to 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, you know what I mean? So it depends.
Yeah. Which I do think is possible because, you know, I don't want to say it's completely unheard of, but it's not super common for a tight end to be a top 5, top 6 pick in the NFL. I mean, we saw TJ Hockenson go at pick 7 a couple years ago, but
if he falls to 12, I'll run down my street naked.
Well, you know what? I kind of hope he falls to 12 because not going to lie, I'd like to see that.
I'm going to hold you to that.
All right.
But all right, Eric, we'll let you go for the Miami Dolphins at pick 6 here.
You can't overthink this one. You got to hit a home run, and you do. You trade back to 12 and you trade back up to 6, so you get your guy, and you're going to get him. Jamar Chase falls to you at 6, and you're happy as you can be. He's an absolute stud. He took a year off, but he was training. It's not like he was sitting on his couch like me, but, you know, he was an absolute dominant force in 2019 and throughout the entire title run with Joe Burrow. And you match him up with Tua Tagovailoa, and you're going to have good things happen.
Yeah, I like the pick. I like the pick a lot. And like you said, I think that's something that you just can't overthink. If Jamar Chase falls to Miami, Jamar Chase, in my opinion, he's got to be the pick there.
I agree with that. I guess we can segue into what I did next, which is the first trade of our draft, which people think they're not going to do this team. But I think if this draft happened the way it did, hypothetically speaking, I think the Patriots would trade up to 7 and grab a quarterback. No offense against Cam Newton. He's just not what he once was, an MVP caliber quarterback. He's more of a placeholder now, but he still gives you upside. Anywho, I think they trade up and grab Trey Lance. I'm not going to sit here and say what it takes to get 15 to 7 because every team is different in NFL. Some teams get fleeced, some don't. But I do think they make that move. They were all in this offseason. Like, they signed everyone. So for you to sit there and say, or for anybody to sit there and say they wouldn't do an aggressive move to get a quarterback of the future, or who might even start this year, is asinine, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like the it makes all too much sense for New England to move up. I mean, obviously Cam Newton's not the long-term solution there. Jared Stidham is not a solution at all, short-term or long-term. I mean, they do have to make a splash, and this class is very deep at the quarterback position, having the opportunity to move up from there. I mean, and I like that. I like that this trade did happen in our mock. And while I hope this doesn't happen in real life because I hate the Patriots, this would be very, very good for the Patriots.
Yes.
Now, for Trey Lance, yet to be seen. He'd probably sit behind Cam Newton for most, if not all of the season. But you know what? We'll see what happens when it happens. But speaking of Cam Newton, I'm going to move on to the Carolina Panthers at pick 8. And I was complaining about them not having an offensive line over the last few years. So Rashawn Slater, offensive lineman from Northwestern, it's a no-brainer. For me, he is my 1B to Penei Sewell being the 1A of the class. He's a freak athlete. I don't remember the last time we drafted a genuine stud offensive lineman, and I've been begging for the Panthers to do it for years. Kyle Pitts is someone who I wouldn't mind them getting here as well, but I think that's my heart talking. My brain is saying offensive lineman. We're going offensive lineman, and that's as simple as that. So, Eric, we're going to move on to you and let Denver pick at number 9.
Well, Denver's a little sad they got jumped, losing Trey Lance, because he's just an absolute high ceiling quarterback that they would love there. But John Elway does love his tall white quarterbacks. And Mac Jones falls to you at 9. You take Mac Jones at 9. And you're kind of happy about it. You know, Elway, he likes to draft people that look like him. And, you know, Peyton Manning brought him a Super Bowl kind of. Defense helped a lot there, but they need a quarterback, and they've needed one for a long time. Mac Jones will be that guy for them.
Yeah, I love that one. Dylan, what are your takes on that? I know you're a big Drew Lock fan.
I am a Drew Lock fan, but ironically enough, there still is a subsection of the fan base that defends him. I will say Drew Lock has still only played like 15 games in the NFL. So I think it's hilarious that a second-round pick is already considered a bust and literally a full calendar year of playing. But I digress on that. I mean, I don't dislike Mac Jones. I think his ceiling might be higher. But once again, Drew Lock is a second-round quarterback, similar to the Eagles' starting quarterback. And I mean, maybe it's a new narrative that quarterbacks in the second round will be expected to have the same pedigree as a first-round pick. But if you're taking a guy 9th overall, he better blow Mac Jones. He better blow Drew Lock out of the water in training camp because they have other needs in that roster.
I think one of the reasons why, and I do think if Mac Jones is there at number 9, I do think Denver will pull the trigger in real life. I don't know. It's just Drew Lock. He had a really good supporting cast. I mean, last year, obviously he lost Cortland Sutton, but the year before that, he had Cortland Sutton fully healthy. And Noah Fant was breaking out a couple years ago too. Last year, even with Cortland Sutton sidelined, Tim Patrick stepped up in a massive way. Jerry Jeudy, his stats won't show it, but he played some really amazing football. Noah Fant played incredibly well last year. They brought in Melvin Gordon, who's
I'm on a very small island and it's shrinking every day. The tide's rolling in. I'm losing sand to stand up.
The thing with Drew Lock is just like, okay, so look at Sam Darnold in Carolina right now. If he doesn't succeed as soon as this season with Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, whoever else they bring in this offseason, there's going to be some red flags because like, okay, kid's got to show at least a little bit of talent, right? In order to exceed in the NFL. But if you can't get carried by an offense like that, I'm not saying Denver's weapons are as good as Carolina's, but they are still pretty damn good. So either way, we'll move on. I like the pick of Mac Jones at number 9. And Dylan, I know you're an Eagles fan, so picking for the Cowboys probably hurt a little bit, but let's hear what they did here.
So I'll just get over. It's actually funny because when Eric did the mock draft results of our draft, he gave him a D for this. But Patrick Surtain is a very talented football player, and it would pain me to see him go to the Cowboys. But I genuinely think there's a real possibility that the Eagles and the Cowboys take the 1-2 punch of the first and second best corners in the draft. Maybe something else happens, but that's what I did. The Cowboys defense is burnt toast. Not sure if Patrick will make that much of a difference because they're so bad, but he will definitely help get the blocks rolling.
Yeah, I like Patrick certain, however the hell you say his name.
So I hear people say both. Certain.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were going back and forth between him and Caleb Farley being the cornerback one, and then Caleb Farley got, what was it, like surgery or something like that. And
Jace Horn's also a late riser. He's
Jace Horn's rising up too. I mean, this is a really good class for those top handful of corners. And we're going to be going over, I think, another 2 or 3 corners as we go. But yeah, I mean, Dallas's biggest need is probably at the corner.
It just
position,
makes sense.
So.
I hate Dallas, but you have incredible receivers. You have a good running back tandem. You have decent enough tight ends, and the best one already went. You don't need a quarterback, so it just kind of makes sense to draft that.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer at that point. Speaking of no-brainers, I'll go up with the Giants at pick 11, and there's not any massive holes on this Giants defense, but they do need a leader back there. And I think drafting linebacker Micah Parsons, however, is it Micah, whatever it is, from Penn State.
I think it's one of the two. I don't know.
He's going to come. I mean, he's a phenomenal linebacker. He's going to step in and step up, and he could be leading this Giants defense by the end of his sophomore season. I think he's that good, and I think he's that refined and really just a really good football mind back there. So definitely wouldn't be surprised to see them go this route. Originally, I would have had them going receiver all day, but obviously they signed Kenny Golladay this offseason. So Micah Parsons just seems like the best available for them at this point.
Agree.
And the third NFC East team to draft in a row, they're gonna take J.C. Horn because they need a corner to play opposite of Darius Slay. Obviously, taking a wide receiver here would be awesome, but the team's just not good enough for that. They needed somebody to match up with Darius Slay, or there was no reason to go and get him.
I'm glad.
So they're going to take a corner, and they're going to take a corner who can tackle, which should make the usually angry fan base a little bit happier about that.
Yeah, he's not wrong. I can confirm that. It's factual. It makes sense. If your team's going to probably be asked, there's a good chance we'll pick higher next year if we don't trade back again. So it makes sense to draft a building block for defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Eagles fan, so I don't pay super close attention as to, what's going on there. I was a little surprised when this wasn't a receiver, but I know that their need for a corner is arguably.
Dude, we need like a whole new set of receivers essentially. So
yeah. I mean, you guys still have a pretty young receiver room right now, so I mean, who knows? Someone could step up.
And there's enough guys in the second round where you can find a little bit of a talent. You're just not going to find the same talent at corner. So I imagine Asante Samuel goes before they can come up and get him in the second round.
As his dad played for the Eagles, and I'm a Florida State fan. I don't know if I said that on this video on this series, but like the two ex-Eagles, son and Florida State. The FSU players I've wanted have all become really great. Like I wanted Brian Burns. Mikey knows that. And he's awesome. Jameis Winston, okay, it is what it is. But
he led the league in passing yards a couple years ago. That's pretty good.
I went to the draft that was in Philadelphia and wore my signed Dalvin Cook Florida State jersey, and I watched the Vikings trade up right in front of the Eagles and take Dalvin Cook. And I wanted Cam Akers. I can't get what I want. So hopefully we get Asante Samuels.
Yeah, well, I'll be rooting for you guys to grab every one of your little heart's desires. As long as Carolina takes an offensive lineman, you guys can have everyone else in the draft. Take them.
Well, speaking of drafting, I'm back on the clock with the Chargers. They have a beautiful young quarterback talent in Justin Herbert, and they probably ideally wanted to draft offensive linemen, but the top two already went, and their second biggest need is corner, but the top two already went. And being that their best option is somewhat old, granted, I think he'll play for a while. And their next best option, I'm not a big fan of. Mikey knows that, Mr. Mike Williams. I think taking Devontae Smith is a risk, but it could definitely pan out for them. And it gives their quarterback of the future a young guy to throw to for the future. And if he's anywhere as good as he was in college in the NFL, I mean, that's electric to have that young tandem. Plus, he's learning from Keenan Allen, like one of the most underrated and underappreciated receivers in all of football history. I like the pick.
I would honestly love this for Devonta Smith and for the Chargers because, you know what, there's going to be a lot of pressure on guys like Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, you know, the big 3 or 4 guys that are entering the NFL. There's going to be a lot of pressure for them to come in and immediately perform. But if Devonta Smith goes to this offense, not only can he grow with Justin Herbert, since they're both very, very young players, but he can learn from Keenan Allen. He can learn from Mike Williams. He will be the wide receiver 3 on this depth chart, probably for his entire rookie
Plus
season.
the healthy Austin Eckler next year. That's a scary offense.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know what? They just lost Hunter Henry, so obviously they got to add another weapon somewhere on the field. Devonta Smith is a Swiss Army knife. He is just everything put into one, but he's really, really good at all of those things put together. You know, so I do really like this. And I like that there won't be a ton of pressure on him his rookie year. So he can really take time to develop at the next level. Cause I saw a graphic just earlier today where it was like the top rated wide receivers of however many years ago, like I think over the last 10 to 15 years, it was like Corey Coleman, Justin Blackman, there was a whole bunch of random names on here. The only one that I could still recognize that's in the NFL today over the last like 10 years is Amari Cooper. So top rated receivers like this, they have to be brought in slowly. And I think that the Chargers will be able to have that luxury bringing him in here.
Yeah, no, it's also ironic that one name on that list is a guy who was good and then fell out of favor with his team and then found a new home is now awesome again. So interesting.
Very, very interesting. And speaking of interesting, my pick for Minnesota, bit of a reach. I'll admit, definitely a bit of a reach. I do think that they're going to end up with this player on draft day, whether it be at pick 14 or whether they trade down to get him. Because like I said, 14 is a little bit early for him, but you know what? Minnesota is hurting for a safety bad. And Trevon Moehrig is a grade A safety, to say the least. He is leaps and bounds above the second best safety in the league, or not in the league, in this draft class.
He's already that good.
He's already fantastic. We're taking him everywhere. But seriously, I mean, it is Minnesota has a couple of holes, but safety is arguably their biggest hole. I think he's going to come in and he's going to be an immediate starter for them and immediately ramp up their defense.
All right. And now the best team is going to be on the clock in a second. Well, I should say the most exciting team in the NFL.
The most, yeah. So as you guys know, there was a trade down. Dylan had traded the Detroit Lions pick down to the with the Patriots. So Detroit is now on the clock at pick 15, and Eric, you get to select for them.
And Detroit is happier than anything they could be. They traded down 8 spots, and they get to select Jalen Waddle, the guy they probably would like to take anyway. So it's the best of both worlds for them and get some extra picks and get the guy they want.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that Waddle fell this far. And I think that's become the consensus where a lot of people are having Jalen Waddle mocked to Detroit at pick 7. And it's 1,000% a possibility. I mean, Jalen Waddle he's a fantastic receiver. He's drawing every year people draw comparisons to Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle is finally the prospect that we can say, holy shit, this could be the next Tyreek Hill, because he's more than just a speedster. He is fantastic route runner. He's got really just a big route tree, and he's just a natural pass catcher. He's really, really awesome at the game of football, and getting him at 15 after the trade down's a steal.
I think Mikey, we hit on that last week or 2 weeks ago whenever we talked about him, how he's probably going to be the safest receiver outside of Jamar Chase. Even if people are considering him safer to succeed in the NFL, like a safer bet than Jamar Chase. That's how much Waddle praise I've been seeing recently.
Definitely safer. I wouldn't say he's safer than Jamar Chase, but Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just saying people are that high on Waddle. Like that's, you know what I mean? That's where his ceiling is being seen.
For sure. But all right, well then we will move on and we'll let you go for Arizona.
So Arizona definitely needs corner. They lost Patrick Peterson. I honestly forgot Caleb Farley was on the board at this time. or else I would have texted. Well, I would have texted you guys instead. I would have taken him. But Greg Newsome is a riser on the draft chart. I have seen his name in several mocks in the first round, and I watched some tape, and I liked what I saw. So I think if it's a need, the Cardinals don't always pick. I mean, they drafted a quarterback one year and then drafted a guy named Kyler Murray the very next year, basically. So they don't always do what you think they're going to do.
Yeah, and you can't fault yourself too much. I mean, like we were saying earlier, Caleb Farley just had surgery and from injury, I believe, and it won't be a surprise to see him fall on draft day.
Yeah, it's tough to deal with back surgery. When you start dealing with the back, you get a little risky, and you can definitely fall off some boards here.
Exactly. I don't expect him to fall out of the first round, but that's definitely within the realm of possibilities because, it's not the easiest thing to recover from.
Greater talents have fallen out of the first round, so Caleb Farley could be that guy. Who knows?
Yeah, so we'll see. But I'll go ahead and I'll pick for I almost said Oakland Raiders, for the Las Vegas Raiders. And a couple needs out there. I think they could really use an offensive lineman, but I also think they could equally use a linebacker, and that's what I went with. So we went with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame.
Pretty good first try for his name.
Yeah, there's no way that's his actual name, but I think I kind of killed it there. I think I kind of crushed it. But yeah, I mean, the Raiders are one of those teams. They need a little bit of everything. I don't think they're a contender. To be honest, with how Gruden's running that team, maybe they're the ones that draft Najee Harris here and they roll with the three-headed monster with him, Jacobs, and Kenyon Drake. He is single-handedly killing offensive fantasy value, and it's driving me crazy. But I think they go linebacker here. Could be equally tempting to go with Chris Darrisaw, offensive lineman here, but you know what? Comes down to it, I think they're going to go linebacker here, especially because you know what? They've been really looking to fill a defensive void. It's really quite a shame that they haven't had any stud defensive players over the last couple of years. What's his name that plays for the Bears, Khalil Mack or something like that, who used to be really good for them. So they got to find a defensive stud, and this is probably their best chance at doing it. But
you're so funny.
I try. But all right, Eric, you are back on the clock, and you have yet another pick for Miami.
Me and Miami, we're going places. So the only thing you do here is you protect Tua. You need to keep him safe. You get yourself a nice tackle, get Christian Darrisaw, and you stay safe. You got to protect your quarterback. You invested a top pick in. You got him a receiver early. Now you give him a nice tackle and keep him safe.
That would be. I think Dolphins fans would be happy with the way you drafted, and I monkey see, monkey do, because I took a tackle right after you did with the Washington football team at 19. I think Washington will be a team that in real life might trades up and try to nab one of the quarterbacks, but for the sake of the draft, I left them where they were. Who knows what their quarterback situation is, but it doesn't hurt protecting whoever it is.
Oh, I'm so sorry I zoned out there. Did you say who the pick was?
No, he's keeping it a secret.
No,
I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to reveal the pick, and I was like, wait, I had to have not.
No. I didn't say it yet, but I also got distracted by using it. No, but I took Elijah Vera Tucker, who I think could potentially end up being the second best offensive lineman in the draft.
Whoa. Bold takes, but I like it. I mean, I definitely think that they're in the running for an offensive lineman or a linebacker. I mean, I know Ron Rivera loves him a good linebacker, so we'll see what happens, but it kind of feels like Vera Tucker is one of the best available on the board right now. So it feels like a good time to go out and grab him. And then before I move on to the Chicago Bears pick, just moving back to that Miami pick that you did, Eric, Christian Darrisaw falling to 18 is awesome. There are a lot of people out there that think he's potentially the third best offensive lineman out there, just behind Sewell and Slater. And I would say I'm definitely one of those people. So the fact that Miami is able to get the top rated receiver in this class and still come away with, I wouldn't say an elite offensive lineman, but a pretty damn good one, that's going to pay some big dividends for them.
What's a good pick?
And I'll go ahead.
What I do.
Oh, what's that? Go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, Miami can start paying me whenever they want them. I'm doing a hell of a draft for them.
Absolutely. I think they should give you a call. They'll be able to pay you a hell of a lot more than I am. But moving on to the Chicago Bears at pick 20, We brought him up a handful of times. We brought up that back surgery, and it's going to be Caleb Farley for Chicago. This is a very high risk, high reward pick. Chicago is definitely in need of a high reward pick. Personally, I don't know what they're doing. I would sincerely hope on draft day that if there's a quarterback there still at 7 and still a quarterback there at 9, I hope Chicago is on the phone with, either Detroit or Carolina. I doubt Denver is going to trade back. So hopefully Chicago is on the phone with somebody to trade up for a quarterback. But Caleb Farley is going to be their pick here. Like I said, very high risk, high reward. If he recovers and he plays like normal, then they will have got a complete steal at pick 20. That's yet to be seen, but especially after them, ruining their defense by just literally releasing Kyle Fuller. Don't understand that move in the slightest bit, but this is going to be a really good replacement for them.
The Bears don't do common sense things.
No. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see them go kicker here. Seriously.
I actually
do
like
need
the
one.
Bears because I like the Bears because they make me feel better being an Eagles fan. So something for that.
Yeah, I'll let my dad know you said that so he can reach out to you. But all right, Eric, you're up.
So here the Colts with a new quarterback in Carson Wentz. They need to draft him his first official real wide receiver that he could throw the ball to that wasn't signed before he got there. They're going to give him Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. Give him a nice guy up in the Midwest, somebody can really connect to.
Yeah, Bateman's kind of a stud, and he's one of those guys where I don't think he's going to be a team's X receiver. I don't think he's going to be able to be, that number one guy that you would like him to be. But he could arguably be one of the safest receivers in recent memory. He's very good. There's nothing that I would say he particularly excels at, but I also can't name anything that he's bad at. He's just very solid completely across the board. I think he's going to be very reliable at the next level. And as long as they bring him in well, and especially, under T.Y. Hilton, and he'll be side by side with Michael Pittman, and then even Paris Campbell will be out there, I think Bateman will learn a lot in year one, and I think he'll excel in no time.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually hilarious because I picked right after Eric, and that's who I had my mind set on the entire draft for the Titans, because I was like, oh, they lost Corey Davis. They'll draft Bateman. Maybe I'll pick Marshall. I know you probably would have cried inside because you're the biggest Terrence Marshall fan in the world. But that didn't happen, so I just ended up taking a tackle and Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. The Titans are weird. I actually Googled their draft history, and they've kind of bounced around on both sides of the ball. So it's kind of anyone's guess. I even did service to you, Tennessee fans, and I looked up mock drafts, and most of you agreed with this pick. So I just figured you might as well protect the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, Tennessee has a couple big needs. Receivers, obviously one of them. The line is obviously another one, and then of course tight end, since they let Jonnu Smith walk. But I feel like going with the tackle here is probably the smartest thing. I mean, I also would have loved to see them get Rashad Bateman at this pick, but if they can't get him, I think going with Tevin Jenkins. I cannot talk. All right. And then moving on to the Jets pick. And if there's a little jump in your video, I apologize. Our video recording got totally botched there. So had to basically start a new one at this point at pick 23. But nonetheless, the show goes on, and the Jets
ironic, right before the Jets pick, it starts going.
Yeah, kind of curious. They kind of ruin everything they touch, and now they're ruining our videos.
Jesus.
My good buddy Vin is going to be really pumped to hear
There's quite a few. I have several people that watch this video that are Jets fans.
All right, fine. Well, then Zach, shout out to you. Your team sucks. But the Jets are going with an edge rusher here in Kwity Paye. There are a lot of mocks out there that have him going far before pick 23. Edge is definitely arguably the second biggest need for the Jets right now. And I think they're going to go out there, realize that Kwity Paye is still there at 23. It's kind of a steal. The stars kind of aligned for them, and hopefully they don't ruin yet another thing. And I'll leave it at that. So Eric Villar, you can go ahead and take us away with the pick 24 for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
the Pittsburgh Steelers are known for one thing, and that's defense. So they're going to build with a strong defensive piece, defensive lineman from Alabama, Christian Barmore.
Can't go wrong with that. I thought you were going to take Najee Harris like every other mock draft, but I'm glad you went against the grain, sir.
Yeah, and I would have had my money on Travis Etienne. I know that the running back position is very popular for the Steelers and a lot of mocks here, but there's no disputing they could really use a guy on the defensive side of the ball as well. And this class isn't exactly deep at the running back position, but I do think that it's something that they could probably wait on.
Cooper Williams centered regards. Excuse you. Okay. Clear running back one in the NFL.
Yeah, but Eric, if you don't mind me asking, why'd you skip on the running back here?
Well, I think they have a bigger need to fill in the loss of Bud Dupree. You saw how different their team was at the end of last year when he went down, and now he's gone for good. I think you got to fill the defensive line somewhere. Christian Barmore is as good a value as you're going to get at 24 for doing that. And running backs are a dime a dozen, man. Look at any running back. You just running back to the first round. It's not for me. It's not what I'm going to do.
You're not a running back guy in the first round.
I'll completely agree with you. We'll pretend Christian McCaffrey's not a first round pick here, and I'll completely agree with you.
He's more than a running back. He transcends the position. Come on.
I knew I loved you. I knew it. But
you can't say anything else. Mikey might get a little too excited and we'll have to flag this video as inappropriate for YouTube.
Oh, you're already gonna have to. There's
Christian McCaffrey talks.
There's always some wild Christian McCaffrey love going on over here. But we'll move on from that. Eric, I do like that pick a lot.
No, I love it. And I think the Steelers, honestly, people don't really talk about it. I mean, they talk about it. They don't. Their quarterback futures, who knows? But they could be that dark horse team trade up to like 7, 8, 9, 10 to grab a quarterback in real life.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what they do, and especially because I've seen some mocks out there where Mac Jones falls to like the 15 or 16 or something like that. Not the 16 because Arizona's not going to grab him, but definitely a spot where I could see Pittsburgh trying to move up. It's going to take them a haul and a half to move up to the top 10 from pick 24. But hey, we'll see what happens, but we'll let you go ahead and pick again for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, it's funny. Eric picked twice for the Dolphins, and Jaguars fans, I picked twice for you. I took the best player available. I took Jalen Phillips. Just think Dolphins. Jeez, I think the Jags have quite a few holes, as evident by picking first overall in the draft. Yeah, you might have wanted Terrence Marshall here, but I think with Laviska Shenault and DJ Chark, and didn't they sign Marvin Jones Jr.? Is that the team who signed Marvin Jones, or someone else signed him? Right?
Yeah, it was the Jags.
Yeah, so I'm not knocking Marshall. I just don't think it would make sense. So it's kind of a crowded receiver room all of a sudden. I think they have a bigger need for tight end, but they're not going to take a tight end here. So I just think taking Phillips fills a need. I mean, players defensively usually do well in Jacksonville. Now, do they stay there throughout their career and or contract? That's left to be decided. But defensive players play well in Jacksonville.
New coaching regime over there, so hopefully they'll be able to retain some stars going forward.
It's just best player available at this point. It's why I took Phillips. I think at that point anybody could agree. Most people have him going in the top 20. So
yeah, and I'm going to follow suit. The Browns are also going to take an edge. They're going to take the best player available, Greg Russo. I would argue that maybe this pick is a little outdated now because they just signed Jadeveon Clowney earlier today.
I was thinking that today.
And as I read that, so for reference, we did this mock like 24 hours ago or something like that.
Yeah, we were supposed to do it over the course of several days, and we did it all in one shot.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that it led up to today. So looking at it now, this pick probably won't happen in real life because, they've got a pair of studs on that defensive line now. Eric doesn't like Jadeveon Clowney, apparently.
It's a 1 year contract. I mean, Jadeveon, look what he did in Tennessee. He didn't stick in Seattle. It's edge. You need edge rushers, and having a third one isn't going to kill anybody. Some teams go 4 deep. I think they could use it here. It's a great value pick.
I like that you're backing it up because it makes me feel a little less bad about it now.
Eric's going balls to the wall. He wants as many edge rushers as he can get.
Yeah, well, Russo is a really, really good player, and getting him at pick 26 is a value pick. So, even if he takes a full year to come on behind Miles Gaskin, Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, I mean, he should have a pretty good NFL career no matter where he ends up. But speaking of phenomenal NFL careers, Eric, the guy that you picked for Baltimore here is going to be a stud upon studs. And tell the people who you got.
I'm Mr. Original. I come up with my own ideas. I draft who I like to draft. And I mean, no one else is taking this. Not even close. Terrence Marshall Jr. will be a Baltimore Raven.
And I couldn't agree more. I've been saying it for the last couple of months. I actually sent a tweet out or either early this week or late last week. I said, my draft day guarantee outside of the top 5 or 6 picks is that Terrace Marshall is going to end up on the Baltimore Ravens.
It's a pretty safe bet for you to guarantee that. I would actually try to bet that. The only other place he would go is maybe Tennessee or the Colts, but I doubt that. So
yeah, I mean, we'll see. But Eric, you and I were texting about it earlier, completely unrelated to this mock draft, but you and I both agreed that, we think giving Lamar Jackson a true X receiver, and Terrace Marshall could 1,000% be a true X receiver in the NFL. We think that this could completely unlock that offense.
I also agree with that. I think we usually have the same opinion. I like Terrence Marshall, and you just push that like into love. So he's a guy that I will not get any league with you because you'll probably kill me or trade in front of me to grab him. So I
will do my very best to grab him. Yes. Although I will say, in the dynasty football community, I'm on Twitter and everything like that. A lot of people hate the landing spot for Terrace Marshall ending up.
Why? There's no competition.
Baltimore. Well, that's what I've said too. And the Lamar Jackson hate and the narrative around that is so strong.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. There's just no other weapons. Objectively, their best weapon, their leading target, which is their tight end, the guy he throws to the most, has diabetes and only plays a fraction of the snaps. Okay, and afterward that Hollywood Brown is however good you think he is. So how would Terrence Marshall going to the Ravens be a bad landing spot?
Just to be clear, everyone, Dylan is not talking shit on people with diabetes. He is pointing out a fact.
No, I'm not.
He is like it.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not talking. Don't cancel it. I'm not talking crap. I'm just saying he physically, the fact he comes off the field for more plays than the average elite starting tight end.
He does. I would definitely like to see him have a higher snap count. But before we move on from this pick, Eric, any final comments on Terrace Marshall here?
This is the key to an elite Lamar Jackson.
No doubt.
All right, that's high. That's high praise. That's higher than higher praise.
I am on board with it 1,000%, but I'm also on board with you making your pick here for the Saints. I hate the Saints. I hope they literally don't.
I hate the Saints too.
I hope this is a big bust, but let them know who you got.
I think it's funny. I consume their tears every year when they complain to the officials about a new violation. But the Saints, baby, if you're listening, I got your attention. Life without Drew Brees. Taysom Hill. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Anyway, I took defense because your offense is probably going to be a lot worse. So, life after Brees, baby. Might as well blow up your defense. I took Azeez Ujulari. I
think you said it right the first time, and that's pretty impressive.
There you go.
Ouija board.
No, I just think he's a good player. He's rising on some people's drafts. Like I said, life after Brees, you might as well build the defense up. You might have to stop people a little more.
Yeah, and I think this one is going to be a toss-up. I'm also thinking there's 3 positions that I could see this being. Could be an edge, which is, where you went. Could be a corner, but the top guys, in my opinion, are already off the board. I mean, they could be a candidate if Caleb Farley, really falls that far. Mm-hmm. He could be a big candidate for the Saints. Or they could go with a wide receiver because outside of Michael Thomas, I mean, what do they have? They let Emmanuel Sanders walk. Traquan Smith is never going to be a thing. We need to just accept that fact. So those are the 3 positions I can see them grabbing. So completely understand this pick, and, I can't complain about it. But we'll move on. Green Bay Packers. Now,
You were confused on this one.
Green Bay Packers, I didn't know what to do here
Well,
because
neither do they. I can't
Well-
talk. But
well,
you ask Aaron
and-
Rodgers.
and that's the thing. You would think that they should go receiver here.
Probably quarterback though.
Maybe quarterback with how they've been drafting.
No, Eric, a running back. Come on.
But I just don't see them taking a wide receiver in the first round. I don't. I just learned to expect it from them. I mean, maybe they go out and I think it would be a reach to take either Elijah Moore or Rondell Moore in the first round. I think they're very early day 2 picks, but I don't know about a day 1 pick. And I don't think Green Bay is going to reach. So I gave them Samuel Cosme because, their offensive line is okay, but it's far from great. And I understand there's a need to keep Aaron Rodgers happy. And how do you keep him happy? You re-sign Aaron Jones and you protect him so he's not on his ass for too much. Realistically, all Aaron Rodgers needs is a line in front of him and Devontae Adams on the outside. Maybe Robert Tonyan in the red zone, but I think just adding some extra protection for Aaron Rodgers is probably the most likely thing unless a top receiver falls to them.
It never hurts to bulk up your defense or offensive line, so I think those are always safe picks. So
yeah, for sure. But Eric, you have one more pick in this draft with us. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock at pick 30, and where are they going?
Bills Mafia will give this person a short commute to his new home. They're going the edge rusher out of Penn State, Jason Owe.
I think it's actually pronounced Owie.
I like.
He's going to make the quarterbacks feel the owie.
He will do that. He had some pretty big hits in college.
Oh my gosh. I can't even add any comment on that. I think we just need to leave it at that. So Dylan, take it away with the Chiefs.
I went with what is considered to be a reach. I think Eric actually made that comment in our text, which is very much true. He's the definition of a guy who is very raw, a lot of talent, but might not pan out. But when you're picking 31 and 32, Mikey has the Bucks. You're kind of able to take reaches, and I do think obviously the Chiefs probably would have liked to go offensive line, but a crap ton have already went at this point.
Yeah, we went really offensive lineman heavy in this draft.
So I feel like they just take a shot in the dark because they also need corners. So I just think they take the Calvin Joseph from Kentucky, who's supposed to be, like I said, possibly pseudo elite, or he could be a bust. So it's going to be 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the first round, a lot of the guys start to become toss-ups anyway. I mean, still good players, probably a lot more good players than bad players at this point in the draft. But I mean, if you could argue that every single pick in the NFL draft is a toss-up anyway. So,
Yeah.
I personally don't fully agree with the pick, but I don't completely disagree with the pick because, like you said, offensive lineman is probably the top priority for them. But I mean, so many went in our mock here, so can't really blame it too much. And then obviously, I'm sure they want a big-bodied receiver out there somewhere, but no shot you're reaching on unless Terrace Marshall falls to 31, which holy hell, pinch me, I'm dreaming if that happens for fantasy purposes. But yeah, I mean, they're not going to reach on one of the big-bodied receivers at the end of the first round. No way. So I'm going to move on to the last pick here, and it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They just won the Super Bowl. They have a phenomenal offense. They have a phenomenal defense, but a lot of short-term contracts on that defense. So I gave them Joseph Osai and for their edge, the defensive line. And yeah, I mean, this one just seemed like a no-brainer for me. It kind of feels like they're going to go with, the top defensive guy that's on the board at that point. They are likely going to find themselves in a rebuild after the Tom Brady era is done. I mean, there's a lot of really short-term contracts that they gave out to players this year because they wanted to retain everyone from the Super Bowl run. If you look at the offensive side of the ball, I mean, Tom Brady's only going to be there for one, maybe two more seasons.
He's got another decade.
Yes, well, that's always a possibility too, because he doesn't show any signs of slowing down. So we'll see what happens with that. But Chris Godwin's playing on the franchise tag. God only knows what's going to happen with him, and he's a massive part of their offense. They have a revolving door of running backs right now between Fournette, Rojo, and Gio Bernard. So God only knows. But this is they're in the position they can afford a luxury pick, especially picking at 32 overall. They're just going to take the best guy available on the board, most likely on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what I went with here with Joseph Osai.
That's smart. They draft well defensively too. They have some studs that they have homegrown the past several years in the draft.
Yeah, they're definitely. I mean, I absolutely hate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but
I know you do, and it's funny because I'm not a Panthers fan, so I like the Bucs. Like Mikey knows that I've liked the Bucs before, like the Brady era. I've always liked their colors, and being a Winston fan, unfortunately.
Ooh, the colors.
That's how you chose the Panthers. Shut up.
No, it's not. It's not how I chose the Panthers. It's not fair to say. Anyway, Eric, thanks for hopping in on this with us here today. I cannot talk. Holy hell. But definitely had a lot of fun doing this. This is likely the last mock draft that I'm going to do, or that we're going to do, ahead of the NFL draft, because when this comes out, I guess like 4 or 5 days from now, we're only going to be a week and a half away from the NFL draft, which is freaking awesome. So Eric, thanks again, man, for hopping on here with us.
No problem. Love doing it.
Hell yeah. We'll definitely have to get you on future videos, and maybe reveal that beautiful mug of yours, so you don't stay too much of a mystery. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Dylan, I always wrap up the show. So do us the honors, man. Let's see if you can pull it together here.
Not prepared for this. No, so thanks for tuning in. I think you'll have all liked our video if you've got to this point, because it's technically 2 videos. And head on over to Twitter and follow me at Dylan Mazzola if you want to see very sad, depressing sport takes. You follow Mikey Ostrowski. I don't actually know what his Mikey. What is your
FF_Mikey 10.
Yeah. Mine's just my name, so I'm just gonna you just I'm either gonna it says it. So just guess it. And also make sure you check out Loaded Box. We have tons of articles and we have videos almost every single day. And the guys there are awesome. They pay me a whopping $0, and I'm happy. I'm actually being held in their basement right now to do these videos. So send help.
You know what? They did send me this shirt.
Well, I get a shirt.
Dude, I've waited 2 years for this shirt. Okay. 2 years. And I finally got it.
Yeah, but I think my outro is fine. But seriously, get me out of their basement.
Well, Dylan, thanks for joining me here today. Eric, thanks for joining me. And everyone, thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys next week.